Well, hello again, and hopefully you're enjoying your Thursday. Looking forward to your 3-day weekend. All right, today we're going to be talking about paying a tip for services, and that would just be extra pay for someone that provides a service. Now, again, sometimes it's a little hard to tell which jobs this is. Some of the common ones would be a waiter, a driver, server of some kind, a maid, etc. Again, essentially anyone who's making your life better because of their work that they are doing sometimes can provide tips, but you don't always have to. All right. Now, the problem with these jobs is that they can sometimes pay below minimum wage. For example, if you're a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant, you do not get minimum wage. You make way below. You might only make $3 an hour, or $3.50 an hour, or $2.50 an hour. But you're relying on those tips as a big part of your pay. And the range of tips usually are based on the price of the goods. So again, more expensive items require more tips. Higher expensive restaurants require a bigger tip. And usually the restaurant's the main use of this. I mean, most of you aren't going to be tipping drivers and maids and things like that very often, but maybe you will. The restaurant's most common. In a restaurant, we normally tip somewhere in the 15 to 20% range. Now, they say 18% is what's kind of expected, but again, that falls kind of right in the middle of that 15 to 20. So what's a good rule of thumb is 15% if it's a reasonably good service, 20% if it's excellent. Leaving no tip or leaving a really small tip like 5 cents or 10 cents is insulting. You would only do that if you were extremely insulted by the person providing the service, I guess. So not very common, but it does happen sometimes. All right, so let's look at some examples. So again, tips an additional amount paid in person of service industry for a service provided as a server in a restaurant or a worker at a salon, those types of things. You know, you're getting a haircut or a tattoo or something like that. You might want to tip a little extra if they did an extra good job. All right, so the procedure. All right, the rate is usually given as a percent, and again, we get to pick our own percent. There is no set number for this. This is a choice. To find the tip, we multiply the rate as a decimal by the original price, and then to find the total price, we add the tip to the original price. So if you're at a restaurant, what's kind of crazy is you get a bill, and then they add in sales tax, and then you add in tip. So let's take a look at this example. It says your bill at a restaurant is $35.68 after taxes. So they've already computed the sales tax on this particular meal. We want to know how much would an 18% tip be, and then what would be the final tip, our final bill with tip. So first off, let's look at the tip itself. We're doing an 18% tip, so that means we're going to take the original price of $35.68, and we're going to times it by the decimal for 18%. All right, so that is going to get us an answer of 35.68 times 0.18. That gives me 6.4224. And here we are again with too many decimals. We want 2 decimals. It's a good idea with money to round up no matter what. Don't have to. I would have accepted both answers, 642 or 643. That's the first part of the answer. Now, what's the total bill? Or I guess they use the word final bill. Let's use their language. So now let's find our final bill. Well, to find the final bill, we have to take the original cost of the meal, after taxes, of course, and we add in the tip. All right, so if we did that, we'd have, it's like $42.11 as our final bill. All right, now, a little shortcut for you, because a lot of times at a restaurant, we don't tip 18%. Like I said earlier, 15 to 20% is a good way of doing it. Well, let's break this down. Finding 10% of a number is really easy. All right, to find 10%, all we have to do is move the decimal 1 place left. So for example, let's say that you went to a restaurant and your total meal was $46.32. Well, 10% of that, 10% would be moving that decimal 1 spot to the left. 4632, and again, that'd be too many decimals, so we'd get rid of that 2 or raise it up to a 4. Again, I don't think we're worried too much about the pennies here. We're talking about a tip. All right, well, that's useful, but who gives a 10% tip? So here's why that is useful. So what makes that so useful is this. Well, isn't 15% really equal to 10% plus 5%? And 20% is equal to 10% plus 10%. So if I have a $46.32 meal and I want to give a 15% tip, all I have to do is take the current 10%, which was really easy, moving the decimal one spot over, and then add 5%. Well, 5's half of 10, so what's half of 463? Well, that's about 231 or 232, right in that zone. Then I can add those numbers together, and it looks like I'm going to get a $6.94 tip. That'd be a 15%er. I can do that in my head. I can do the 10%, I can cut it in half, and then again add those together. Well, 20% is even easier. You just have to take 10%, add it to itself, or times it by 2. And if you did that, you'd end up with 926. So again, a good tip at this restaurant would be somewhere in between these amounts. And again, you don't want to leave a $6.94 tip. That's awkward. You leave $7, all right? Or you leave $9, or you leave $8. Any of those would be acceptable. And again, this is a good kind of quick way of doing it. Another thing I've heard people talk about before is to just double the tax. Get the tax and just double it. Well, sales tax is 7%. If you double that, it means times it by 2, you're giving a 14% tip. That's not so hot. So that's not bad. If you tripled it, if you took that 7% tax and tripled it, that's 21%. And again, what you could do is then go for some number in between those. That's another shortcut for doing tip while not at a restaurant when you don't necessarily have a calculator. I mean, most of our phones do at this point in time, so it's not like you couldn't just do it on a calculator. Some phones even have apps that calculate the tip for you. Some restaurants will actually give you those numbers at the bottom of the receipt. What a 15% tip would equal, what an 18% tip would equal, what a 20% tip would equal, and so forth. So this is something that you'll definitely see in your regular life, even though you might not have to do very many calculations. Again, we have a lot of shortcuts out there in the real world for stuff like this. All right, good luck today.